Hello, and welcome to the show Goldsquadrongays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars-loving gays break down each episode of their favorite Star Wars TV shows, while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
And I'm Charles Rogers, and it's actually three gays today. We have another guest on the show. Kyle, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, although I don't know if I would qualify as completely Star Wars-loving enough to match y'all. But yes, hi, I am Kyle Mueting, known online currently as @Kylectron on Twitch and etc.
Now, Kyle, the
friend of Charles.
The reason that I asked you actually to be on, because I went and sought Kyle out, is because, Kyle, I know you and your partner have been watching The Mandalorian together. And you guys are pretty into it. But now, Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong on this. You haven't seen all of the Star Wars movies.
That is correct. I have not seen whatever the last one of the most recent trilogy was, and I didn't see the Rogue One or Solo movies.
Oh, so you basically haven't seen the only good movies in the whole entire series.
I'm sure. Well, I know I watched The Last Jedi?
Okay.
That one was good.
8.
And I also I forgot about this. Is something I forgot existed until I actually was doing my homework and I listened to one of the earlier episodes. And Charles, you mentioned the Ewoks movies.
Ah,
and
yes,
I remember
the
we
best
had
ones.
We had the VHS of one of the Ewok movies. I think you said the second one was straight to TV, so I guess it must have been the first one.
They both were. They both were. They were straight. They were released on TV first, and then they were released on VHS after the fact. I actually saw them VHS. We would rent them from
Blockbuster?
The Blockbuster.
Yeah.
It was family video where I lived. I lived in the middle of Illinois, so we weren't fancy enough for Blockbuster.
We lived in northern Illinois. Above you plebs, and we owned a copy of the first one. We rented a copy of the second one.
Chicago ruins everything for everyone. They take all of the people. They take all of the interesting landmarks, and all they give us is the governors.
And then they sell their positions to each other. But that's neither here nor there. So
you guys lost me.
You know this from other discussions about other franchises where it's I say I wouldn't consider myself a fan of it, but then I inexplicably will have rushes of knowledge come back because my brother and I we had a Star Wars encyclopedia at some point growing up, and so I will randomly know some things, but I cannot say I'm studious of it. I don't know if I've ever rewatched most of the movies.
And I am glad on the timing somewhat because we sort of brought you in on the most reference-heavy episode.
I was going to say, it's the most...
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I just rewatched this episode, in preparation, again, trying to do my homework. And I'm I feel like these things are references, but I can't be sure. So I'm going to, propose hypotheses, and I would like you to tear them down.
Okay.
Sure. As you can tell, Bradley and I, we tend to do our homework with the references, but, even we are not perfect. Before we jump into it, and we're going to jump into the episode pretty quick here, I did want to follow up from something I said that I went to Target yesterday to buy groceries. Did not end up buying the groceries, but I did buy the first 2 High Republic novels.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
I mentioned
Legos, and I was uh-oh.
No, I'm looking ever since Bradley, I think it was you, told me that there was a Walmart or something that had the Baby Yodas out. I was looking for it, the smaller Mandalorian set with the Baby Yoda. It's still not at my local Target in LA, but I do have the first 2 High Republic books at long last.
Well, I saw it again. Yeah, 2 days ago.
Walmart?
Barnes & Noble.
Really? Is it everywhere but this one specific Target in LA?
I guess so.
Oh my goodness.
You can just order it online.
I could, but that wouldn't be the proper rush of dopamine that you get from seeing something at the store.
You
contemplating whether your bank account can handle it.
You say
debating
that,
whether or not you want to get a sugar daddy and then buying it anyway. It's a journey you have to go on, Bradley. There is an art to this.
Well, you skip the set where after this, like the step where after you debate whether or not you want to get sugar daddy, you quickly glance around the target and see if there's any immediate options, and then reevaluate.
Yeah, just whip out Grindr. Anybody want to buy me the Razor Crest? Take me to Disneyland. I'll let you force choke me.
I mean, that's great and all. I know that that's like fun in store and stuff, but like, there's nothing better. Like today, I've been working all day, and I'm currently in Miami because I'm filming something, and I am getting like maybe 20 messages a day because I forgot I ordered all this stuff online, and they keep getting delivered to my apartment complex. And we have this like locker system. So it tells me like, oh, you have a smart package. Oh, you have a smart package. And I literally have gotten about like 7 or 8 in the past 2 days, and I'm not even there. So the joy that I am going to receive when I go back home and I have about 8 or 9 packages to open from Amazon and Target and etc. I'm going to be so fucking happy. Like, there's something about opening up packages that's 10 times better than shopping in the store.
It's like Christmas, but when you're in your 20s and 30s and the economy is busted. All right, so with that out of the way, there's not any news that I can think of that we need to extrapolate on, so that means we can, as always, dive straight into the episode.
Did you discuss your gay drinks?
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh, he caught that. That was
He
quick.
caught that. He caught the running
Yeah.
I
joke.
was like, I was like, I don't even think of that as the joke, and he's like, wow, okay. Well, now we have a reference.
Yeah, so we're recording this later on. We're recording this not our usual afternoon. So I only have the grande pink drink. I panicked and grabbed the first gay thing I could get off the menu. It is the regular pink drink. But I do have my gay. I walked into the Starbucks and I literally said, I need something that's not caffeine heavy,
Right.
but still has to be super gay. And I can't explain to you why it needs to be super gay. It just needs to be super gay.
Well, I think the process of you going in there frantically, just you're like, I need something gay, and then just going with whatever is offered to you first, that in and of itself is a gay experience. So I think that counts.
Right.
Give me the gayness directly into my veins. I can't do this podcast if there's any lingering straight people on me. And now that important detail is out of the way, thank you, Kyle, for catching the continuity. On that, we can launch straight into the episode. Bradley, you want to take us in with our synopsis? What will we be looking at today?
Well,
I'm literally looking at it because Kyle's background on Zoom is a screen cap from the episode.
He's very timely with that background. I like it. It looks good. So today we're going to take a look at The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 5, titled The Gunslinger, where on a familiar desert planet, the Mandalorian helps a rookie bounty hunter who is in over his head. So we'll start with
familiar planet we're going to do here.
I know. I was going to say, so actually we're going to do it like this. So Kyle, normally I ask Charles one thing he likes about the episode and one thing he doesn't like about the episode. So I'm going to ask you first. So what is one thing you liked about the episode and one thing you did not, without getting in too much detail? But
Right.
Just one little thing that you liked.
Well, I recently listened to a podcast that was talking about, it was like kind of like a postmortem on The Dark Knight. And some of my feelings about this episode are kind of similar to that. And it might just be, a microcosmic example of Star Wars as a whole, but it's like, it's a lot of fun. But if you look at any part of it too closely, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it like feels like it's supposed to be evoking something, but it's not like necessarily actually getting there if you think about it. But like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very fun to watch as well. There are lots of things I enjoyed looking at. If you just like look at it as a story or anything like that, it's what it is. It's a bit inconsistent, but we'll get into it all.
Well, yeah, and
That's Star Wars.
I was gonna say we can probably get more into that later on, because once we get to the whole directed by thing, like that'll probably play into that.
Interesting.
So because there's a little fun fact at the end of there we'll come back to that. But what's one thing you that was the one thing you didn't like about it? Or did you say the one thing you liked?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. Like, it was very fun to watch, and also like there's some cool visuals.
Gotcha. Okay, Charles, what was one thing you liked and one thing you didn't like?
One thing I liked, Ming-Na Wen
Okay.
was the thing I liked.
Mhm.
Love that. Good option.
We will always stand her,
Mhm.
being the woman who's achieved the Disney trifecta.
That's
Yeah.
right.
All of her scenes that she was in, it was a good showcase of all of her range, because they had kind of her physical presence when she's just in the helmet. They let her show off her martial arts skills, and they let her show off her range as an actress too.
Mhm.
Even in the few scenes that she had where she was talking to that character, I really loved just her throughout the entire episode. The little bits where she was actually in it. I felt that, as far as a thing that I didn't like, we'll get into it. But this episode suffered a little bit from too many references. And there was a specific point in the episode where I started going, like, checking off the bingo card.
Yeah.
There was one thing that's mentioned for Tatooine in this episode alone. There's one location that's mentioned, that's well known, that's not actually mentioned in this episode, and that started to annoy me as a longtime fan of, like,
Gotcha.
oh, they're going to mention this, they're going to mention that. Is this the only town on the entire? I mean, it's a desert planet.
Well,
so
yeah, it kind of is.
And Bradley, what about you? One thing you liked, one thing you disliked, and we'll jump in and rip this thing apart.
So my like and dislike is kind of in the same realm because it involves the same thing. So I absolutely love Amy Sedaris, or Amy Sedaris' character of Peli Moto. So that was my big like. I love her. I love her acting. I think she's so funny, and just her randomness of being in this episode actually makes it funnier. Like, in a way, like it's not even supposed to be that serious of a role.
As soon as she appeared on screen, I like laughed out loud. I'm like, oh my God, and this is gonna be great. And it was. She's just a delight.
Exactly. But the thing I didn't like was actually involving her, and it was anytime she was holding the puppet. And I think it's because it doesn't have enough weight to it or something, or I don't know what it is. We'll get more into it later, but I think that it just looks awkward when people hold the Baby Yoda puppet when it's not being animated, or if it's like you're only seeing the backside of it or something. It just doesn't seem like heavy.
Real.
It doesn't seem like it has weight or real. So it's weird, but we'll get into it later.
I had mentioned in episode 3, remember we were talking about when he's walking out of the room, I had mentioned that there's points where you can tell that they're not animating the puppet, that it's just he's holding a bundle, either because you just can't see it,
right,
or it's not moving, and it is noticeable if you're looking for it.
Right. But here, we'll just get into the first scene. So the beginning of the episode opens up with Mando is in some kind of dogfight in outer space.
Dogfight in huge quotation marks, because he sucks at evading. He's awful at it. It's like the first minute's just him getting shot.
Right. And so like, I thought this was interesting opening wise, because like what we've seen so far out of all the different openings and everything, they've either been like a standard space shot, like where it's just like this spaceship is in outer space, or it's been our weird artistic openings where it's like the lizard or it's the shrimp underwater. So it's like, I don't know. It's this one just kind of opens up with action, which is good because it does kind of break away from the standard kind of opening. But yeah,
it also follows up too from last episode where we learned that the bounty hunters are coming after them, and then we open this episode with a bounty hunter coming after them, and even says the line I have written down in my notes, hey, it's the line, and then Mando says, that's my line, and I went, yes, that is in fact his line.
It's kind of very clear that it's like we kind of need to explain what happened between the end of last episode and the start of this one, but we basically just want to get them to the location and start this episode as quickly as possible. So we're just going to get them, get it set up, which I mean, it's kind of makes sense. It's exposition, or not exposition, but it's like the intro part. But I think it's interesting that the open use that one. Like you said, you hadn't seen the opens doing that format before. At least my understanding, basically, me purely just repeating what you said. I've only rewatched this one episode. I have not rewatched any of the other episodes, so I'm taking your word for it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I mean. It was just different. It was just an action opening, which we haven't had yet. Right. So that was just interesting. And then, like he said before, the bounty hunter goes, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold, which is a callback to the pilot episode where Mando says that to someone. And that's why he's like, that's my line.
I wonder if people are in universe, like if I don't know whether he came up with that or like it's a common thing that maybe he just uses or whatever. But I mean, the guy uses it and then it doesn't end well for him. So maybe he should have respected the trademarks. Maybe that's the moral lesson that Disney wants to teach us here.
I think so.
So
respect the trademarks or the mouse will get you.
So the only other thing that I noticed in this scene, which I didn't actually notice as I was watching it, but then when I was looking up the trivia for this episode, they kind of pulled it up and said that this exact shot where we see the mysterious planet that Mando's going to land on is actually reusing Ralph McQuarrie's original matte painting from A New Hope. So the opening scene of Star Wars, the motion picture, is using this. We're using the exact same matte painting that they use in the movie. So
they really love Ralph McQuarrie. Like a lot of the stuff in Rebels is based off of Ralph McQuarrie designs. Zeb, the character, the Lasat character, was based off an early concept for Chewbacca. And I bring Zeb up for a specific reason later on in, I can't remember if it's this sequence or right after the opening credits, but Zeb actually is relevant to a little Easter egg in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, there's so many Easter eggs, so it's hard it's hard to like knock them all down. I'm like, did I get that one? Did I get that one? Did I get that one?
So I don't know if this is the time to raise this question, but I, as a layman, am curious about Star Wars cartography and like how their navigation stuff works, like, and also how far apart like these planets, like basically like.
So the fuck are we, Kyle?
I was gonna say, like, is that a thing where it's like, oh, you know, like he's going somewhere, and you know, at this point, like, I don't think he was trying to go to this planet, but he ended up being closer. But like, what if he wasn't like near a planet when he got shot down? Like, how, like, how long? What would be the result? Or you know, like, that is, I find it curious, like how they navigate between stuff, because when the tracker fobs and stuff like that, it seems the system there is different, but I'm very curious how their coordination of, you know, maps and navigation work.
So Star Wars kind of operates on this: planets are as close together as they need to be for the story to function. Obviously they've got hyperspace as a thing that you could jump around, but like the entire plot of the second and third acts of Empire Strikes Back are that the Falcon's hyperdrive is broken and they can't jump into hyperspace. And so they move between Hoth to the asteroid field to Bespin in just without the hyperdrive, and a journey that is implied that it might take weeks. Later on in The Mandalorian, we also mentioned this too, without spoiling too much of the upcoming episodes. For Bradley, who's pretending he hasn't seen them, without spoiling too much, there will be a part here where the Mando has to move between different planets without a hyperdrive. Obviously, as we know, because Kyle, you are a teacher, and you know that in reality, it takes a very long time to move between planets. In Star Wars land, it looks like it takes maybe a couple of days or a couple of weeks to move between planets.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if like the, you know, without like let's say the navigate, like I don't know if the navigation stuff is broken or just you didn't use it, but like it's not like there's a whole lot of landmarks you can see while you're in space other than like the different planets and stuff like that. But even then, like if you get turned around, I just know that I'd get lost. And also,
it's interesting that as a layperson coming in and raising this point, because we had a discussion about this last week, Bradley. We talked about them saying, well, this planet's taken. Like the whole planet is taken, and the whole planet appears to be like 2 villages.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, It's taken.
Right. Well, the way I
Move
look at
on.
it, yeah, the way you look at it, you have to think about it as like shrink. You have to shrink down the universe to like the size of like if a planet is a planet in Star Wars or whatever, it's really actually like a city. A planet is actually like the size of a city if you think about it. So like if Tatooine is Atlanta, then that means that Navarro, which is our main planet that we go to or whatever, is like Miami, Florida. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're so close. They're close enough. They're like 9 hours apart, but there's still like just a little bit of a drive. Like it's not a big deal. Like you could theoretically drive the whole way, or you can take the airplane ride, which is hyperspace, which is only 2 hours away. You know what I mean? So you just have to look at it like that. They're just cities, like near next to each other. And most planets are only one whole city because for some reason the humans on each planet or the aliens on each planet didn't evolve past the whole city. So, you know, they just kind of go, well, once our city is established, we got to move to another planet.
If there is a bright center to the universe, Atlanta is probably the furthest from it.
So then we get our title screen, which is the Gunslinger, which is
a very Western title.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I didn't write down the movies, but there is either an interview somewhere where the director did say that this episode was heavily inspired by a movie, Western movie. Specifically,
really?
One of them is called
I couldn't tell.
The Gunslinger or something Gunslinger. I gotta find it, but it's he said specifically that it was this Western movie that has the word gunslinger in it. I think that references it.
Couldn't tell.
Right.
Couldn't tell at all.
You know, I mean, it's just a little.
Star Wars famously has never had any Western influence on it whatsoever.
No, what? You're telling me that Star Wars, the motion picture, is not a swashbuckling like Western sci-fi movie?
No, it's actually very dry and boring and full of boring science terms. And we're very, very concerned with the minutia of how the universe works, and everything has to be physics accurate. There is no room for fun in our series about the magical space wizards. Kyle is just on the Zoom call shaking his head in agreement, like, yes, we cannot have fun in our magic space wizard franchise.
No, and like you just know that if they could say this town ain't big enough, they would try, but they just say this planet ain't big. This planet's taken. That's what they say instead.
I know they missed opportunity. This planet ain't big enough for the two of us. Like that's all we needed to hear.
Although I feel like a future episode does have something basically like that. It may also be on this similar planet.
I found it. So it was a Western TV series that Jon Favreau recommended to the director. And it was titled The Westerner. And then there's specifically one called The Westerner Hand on the Gun. So it's like it's most of the episode, or at least the plot, is a reference to that TV show or series. So we'll see.
It's a reference that I didn't even catch.
Right. Well, because I don't watch Westerns. Do you watch Westerns? I mean, I wouldn't know.
The ones that I had to watch in film school.
Well, there's that.
Some of us paid attention in class, Bradley.
Yeah, well, I didn't. Not to those kinds of things. But
and he's the one working as a working producer right now.
Right.
I've never seen a true Western, but I did live right next to the Ronald Reagan Library. If that counts for anything.
I mean, yeah, he's a cowboy, right?
Wasn't he in a Western? I don't remember he act. I just remember him acting badly, but that wasn't when he was in movies. But also, like that same place, that's in Simi Valley, California, where they filmed some scenes for The Mandalorian.
Oh, you know what? That's so funny that you said that, because there's not. I mean, I guess this is a good kind of time to bring this up, but there's another little bit of trivia about the filming of this. So a lot of the desert scenes in this were actually filmed in like on a set, right? It was
the volume, probably
it's called The Volume. And they just took like a small patch of sand basically, and they just filmed all the desert scenes. on this little patch of sand. But the production designer had authentic sand from Tatooine, which is the planet. Because when they filmed Star Wars, they filmed some of the scenes in Yuma, Arizona. And so they flew in the sand from Yuma, Arizona to put on the volume set so that it was authentic Tatooine sand. So,
oh my goodness.
Thank goodness.
I mean, you
I'm can really tell.
If you would be able to tell the difference. So I'm sure most Star Wars fans would. So
now, Kyle, this place that you lived, I just have one question, which is it as fucking hot and death-like as everywhere else I've been to in SoCal?
Yes.
So perfect, great.
So it's the authentic Tatooine experience,
right?
I mean, the scenes they film on there are not actually of Tatooine, but right. I think that's for next season. So
yeah, that's for next season.
We'll have to take note when we do see those episodes. We'll have to take note. Yes.
Coincidentally,
Kyle
again,
lived there.
Trying to be no spoilers for Mr. Bradley here, but some of the characters that we are, encounter in this episode come up in the episode that I was referencing.
We'll find out in a future episode.
Soon as the pandemic ends, I need to add that to my list of places. I think I just saw Bradley. Do you remember that cosplayer that you mentioned back in the pilot episode? I think they just did a photo shoot.
You know what? I think
out at that area.
I was gonna say I think I just pulled up on my Instagram today. I randomly saw him on there, and I was like, did he go to like some kind of photo shoot or something? So yeah, he must have gone out to the set where they filmed those scenes, and he did like a little Mandalorian photo shoot because he dresses up as Mando sometimes. So
Gotcha.
I can never tell which one is him.
I know, that's what's so funny because he always has his buddies with him. So it's like
he has his buddies, and I want friends.
Yeah, and they're like, I'm gonna dress up as Mando. I'm gonna dress up as Django. I'm gonna dress up as Rex. Like you never know which one's him or which one it is. So it's just like random.
These are people that are having way more fun in their lives than I am.
Guess.
Currently, they are wearing their masks though.
But hey, you know what? And
they wouldn't be Mandalorians if they weren't wearing their masks.
Right.
As far as we know, in season 1, that's true.
Well, learned,
at this point,
we learned in the last episode that if you take off your helmet, you die or something. Like I don't know, it was random.
You can never put it back on.
Never put it back on. It's impossible.
Imagine if you took
the
off
seal
your
is
mask.
Broken.
Yes.
Yeah, once the seal's broken.
Do not remove the tag from the mattress.
So they land on this planet, and I've noted here that Mos Eisley must have really fallen on some hard times because they're using less docking bays than they used to.
Yeah, well, actually, there's trivia for that too.
Of course, they're fucking.
I know. I didn't even write this one down. I was just remembering it. So now that you brought it up, so it's so funny that you say that because what's the number that they use?
It's in the 30s. It's either 33
like 33
or 35.
Or something.
33 or 35, something like that. I noted it because the Falcon is in Docking Bay 94.
Okay,
in A New Hope.
That's what I was trying to find on my trivia list because
I remember this because the Star Wars musical for A New Hope that you can listen to online, which of course exists, and of course I am familiar with. They sing Docking Bay 94 in this long epic. So I will now always remember that Docking Bay 94 is the one. Kyle, I'm curious. Did you recognize Mos Eisley?
I did. Well, actually, until you said it there, I wasn't sure if it was Mos Eisley or I was just being like, this looks a lot like Mos Eisley, but I don't know any other named cities or residences in Tatooine, so I'm not sure. But I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the PlayStation 2, and this is where you could have all the Jedi fight all the different characters and stuff like that. So I remember the docking bay and Mos Eisley and the cantina and stuff like that. So it did feel familiar.
So in the production of this, they were going to use Docking Bay 94 because that's the one where the Millennium Falcon lands, but they in their minds, right, they go, well, the Razor Crest is a smaller ship, So if we land the Razor Crest in Docking Bay 94, it's gonna have to look fucking huge, and they can't do that because our set is only so big. So they said, well, it's a smaller ship, so let's use a smaller docking bay, and then it'll make the ship look bigger in the docking bay. So that's why they chose Docking Bay 35 instead of Docking Bay 94.
Maybe Pelly will upgrade docking bays in between seasons.
I don't think no, wait, actually, I don't know because I haven't seen any of the episodes apparently. So,
as the series goes on, she might upgrade docking bays.
Who knows if she even survives the end of the episode?
Who knows? I certainly haven't seen the episode. I'm just making this up as I go along.
Well, a fun little thing that they do right as he lands the Razor Crest is we get one of the best things that Star Wars can ever do in any future project, which is referencing the prequels. And we get to see the pit droids come in. And
I do want to jump in. Before we do that, they crammed 3 separate references in to about a 2-minute sequence because we have Mos Eisley, which is a reference, obviously, to a original trilogy. Then there is the announcer who talks to Mando over the comm. Did you look up who actually voices him?
No, I didn't.
According to IMDb, he is voiced by Steve Blum.
Oh, okay.
Who I believe is the voice of Zeb on Rebels. I know Steve Blum from being the voice of Varric Tethras in Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition. The owner of the most beautiful chest hair in God's creation.
Okay.
But I do believe he was also the voice of Zeb on Rebels.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's why you're here, to catch those. I told you there's too many Easter eggs in this episode.
It's too much.
For one person to, like, I'm sure all those YouTubers out there who are like, the 30 references you missed in the episode of Mandalorian, see episode 5. You know what I mean? Like,
there is one in particular. Star Wars Explained does his Easter egg videos, and I watch all of them religiously.
Gotcha.
He and his wife actually live in Atlanta, I believe.
Oh,
they're right down the street from me. Well, they're somewhere in the same city.
Let's not dox me right now, but
let's get them on the show.
Live right next to them.
Well, if they were real fans, they would live in that one city in Arizona where they get that authentic tattooing.
That's right. They would.
That's my goal, is to move there. I moved to LA just so I could get closer to the authentic tattooing sand.
Oh, I was gonna say you got to move out to like Tanzania or wherever the fuck they filmed the rest of the movies.
Yeah, you wish.
Right.
No, he does the Easter egg videos, and he does them for every book,
Gotcha.
every film, every TV episode that comes out. And they're really good for somebody like me who loves them, but might not necessarily catch everyone on my first viewing. Like, I'm reading Light of the Jedi right now, and there's some that I'm definitely catching.
Mm-hmm.
But there's points where I'm like, I'm going to go back and watch his video on the Easter eggs in Light of the Jedi when I'm done with it, just so I make sure I know all the references, so I seem like I caught them. That's my secret, is I just let other people find them for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, so after all those references and all those Easter eggs, we finally get to see prequel stuff, which is the pit droids, which I love so much because, I think as time progresses, I think people generally favor the prequels now because I think the kids like me who grew up on the prequels are like begging, all these new Star Wars things to have them references in there, or even just merchandise or like just random stuff, because that's what we had as kids. So therefore we want those things now to make us happy, to fill the void in our lives because we can't go outside and, get drunk at the bar. So,
hey, even when I was going out and getting drunk at the bar, I needed prequel references in my life. I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter once about whether or not Disney is like ignoring the prequels, and I'm like, they were like, oh yeah, Disney secretly hates the prequels and is not putting any references anywhere, and I'm sitting here like, what are you on about, random person? Kyle's lucky. Kyle just uses his Twitter to promote his Twitch stream.
Right.
That's it. That's the appropriate use of Twitter.
Well, that's that Twitter. I have multiple Twitter accounts.
Oh, this is interesting.
That's not for
Kyle. What do you use your multiple Twitter?
Whoa.
Are you secretly
one is like
Star Wars
for following
fans?
news stuff. One is for random venting. One is a account where actually I can't say because I secretly run a fan account for a certain movie. I have one where I impersonate basically a prop from the set of this one singer's music video.
Okay.
And I also had some more before I deleted my Twitters, but
Gotcha.
you know what? We're off topic now.
I was gonna say you have a lot of alts. Okay, we get it. You have a lot of porn accounts. We understand. Okay.
None of them are that though.
That's surprising, actually. So yes, we get pit droids. They're great. Love them. I love a reference.
We shoot them, which is the correct reaction to a pit
we
droid.
love the droids, but not everyone does apparently.
Yeah, no, Mando fucking hates droids. But I feel like with at least these, he has a reason to, because
I agree with his reaction. I hate the little bastards.
Oh no, they're so funny and cute. I love
them. Shoot them all.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't write it down, but did any one of them like kind of get not bopped on the nose, but you know how like the whole thing is you punch them in the nose and they fold up into like a thing? Did any of them do that?
Well, it defensively folded up into like a disc.
Okay, that's what I was
like
thinking.
after
How did Kyle catch that and neither of us did?
I don't know. I for some reason I wasn't paying attention.
Well, I didn't know that was a reference. I just remembered that happened.
Okay, good.
Well, also he's walking off the ship and he's shooting it like right away. Like these poor little things. It's interesting because you see kids. One of the themes I noticed in this episode is all about trust, and it's like he doesn't trust the little droids or whatever, and then we'll see how much he trusts other people and whether or not that is earned.
Right.
You gotta get out of here with that 8th grade book report shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
There are no themes in Star Wars. It is not a thinking man's.
Well, that's the thing is when you analyze it, you're like, well, what is it saying about this? Is like it's very confused about what it would want to say about this.
Right. So we get to meet a brand new character, which I think is one of the best parts about this episode. So we meet Pelimoto, who is the owner of the hangar where Mando lands his ship, and she is played by Amy Sedaris, who is a comedian / actor who is best known for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I think there's something called Candy from Children, or I can't even think, something like that.
You're naming the things I don't know her from.
Right.
Like from, BoJack Horseman. And most importantly, she was an elf.
Yes. People forget that she was in that movie. And
I forget that movie
that was such
existed.
A star-studded cast, and they didn't market it as such, but that's...
But one of the trivia things I have for this episode is that she was in Elf, which is directed by, guess who?
Is it
Jon
Favreau.
Wait, I didn't realize... So for some reason, I knew the directed by Jon Favreau was for Elf. I didn't even I didn't know who he directed The Mandalorian until about 15 minutes ago when you started talking about it.
Yeah. No, so he's the he's the showrunner for Mandalorian, so he knows Amy Sedaris. It's not like I just got her on here randomly. Like he knows her very well. Actually, because he also knows her from The Lion King, which I didn't even know she was in that.
She was in that?
So that was one of the trivia things, was that the reason why they know each other is because she worked with him on Elf and the remake of The Lion King in 2019.
The remake.
I'm having
not the classic.
Catherine.
I was confused. I'm like, who is she in The Lion King?
No, not.
I'm having a Catherine Hen moment from WandaVision where we discovered her from WandaVision, then I realized she was in a dozen other movies.
She's been in everything.
But I didn't realize. I'm having the same moment for this comedian. Is
And I don't know who she is in Lion King. I don't know what connection she has.
She is the voice of a guinea fowl.
Okay,
I have her IMDb.
A random voice. Okay, cool.
Kyle is really jumping into how we produce these episodes.
You know what? He gets it.
What can I say?
Kyle's a quick
That
learner.
makes a lot more sense now because now I'm drawing a lot of parallels between Elf and The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like the chase sequence in Elf where the Central Park Rangers are going after Buddy. Like you see the exact same kind of suspenseful chase cinematography in The Mandalorian, and it's done almost as well as it's done in Elf.
That's hilarious.
That's amazing.
No, so actually, I'm surprised we haven't seen Will Ferrell in Mandalorian yet. But you know what? We'll find.
It's coming. It's coming.
He's gonna play like
A
a
gonk droid.
yes, he's gonna reference something weird. So my favorite part though in this scene is where Amy Sedaris is looking at his ship and she's like kind of assessing the damage, right? And the funniest line, I don't know why this made me laugh so much, but she goes, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to rotate that." I don't know why that was so funny to me, but the way she said it and the delivery, I'm just thinking she's just making up these lines. Like, I don't think those were her actual lines. I think she was making up that shit when she was improvising, like when she was looking at it, she's like, "Oh yeah, you got some carbon scoring," like that part was written, right? And then she goes, "Oh, ooh, I'm gonna have to rotate that." Damn, like so
isn't that what mechanics also do when they're like looking at your car and they're like,
right.
"Ooh, what can we get them to pay for?"
We're gonna have to go in and fix your carburetor, and that's gonna run you an extra $200. And we don't necessarily need to replace your battery or alternator, but if we don't, you're gonna be back in here in 6 months.
And the question is like, would I rather pay for that thing, which may or may not be real, or call my father to ask him?
Right.
And the price is usually
doesn't outweigh.
And I'm gay, so the question of whether or not I can call my father is really a 50-50 chance.
Right. Exactly.
No, I literally got my oil changed like 2 days ago before I went on this trip. And the guy tells me, like, because I went to like a 10-minute oil change place, and he pulls out like my little oil cap thing, and he goes, "You have this kind of oil, it's going to cost $70, whatever, because it's synthetic oil." And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to trust you, because I honestly don't know what kind of oil my car takes. I don't know what any of the symbols mean. Like, I was like this close to calling my dad, because anything that happens with my car, I call my dad, because he, basically owns it. And I was like, should I call him? No, I'm just going to let them do this, because I'd rather pay the money than have the awkward conversation with my dad being like, "Is this the right oil?" "Yeah, that's the right oil. They told you the right oil." You know what I mean? Like, so, because it wasn't like so expensive that I was thinking like, okay, they're trying to swindle me, but it was also like more than I normally pay. But I forgot that I have a hybrid car now, so it's like, it probably does actually need the better oil.
Here's the real question: is how often has she seen this, and is the Razor Crest ever actually functioning? Like, does the ship work?
I don't know.
In general? Like, what is the quality of this ship?
Well, the quality of the ship, right? There's like one redeeming quality. Like, he won't get rid of it. I don't think it's just tradition, right? There's like something about like how there's like, there's no, oh god, like it's not
a
on record or whatever.
Ship.
Say it again.
It's not a Mandalorian ship, so
right, but it's something about how it's like not registered or was like something like that, and so he like doesn't want to change ships, right?
I don't know if that.
I don't think it's in this episode, but it's
season 2.
I wasn't sure.
Right.
But I was like, like literally just like get it like repaired or get a new ship or whatever. Like,
I see what you mean. No. Yeah, because that doesn't technically come up till later, but
right.
Yeah, no, I think I see what you mean. Like, he doesn't get it fixed often, or it's like it doesn't get, because it's like not registered,
right,
air quotes. But
one thing I did note in this sequence that I wanted to bring up too real quick before we moved on, we were talking about Womp Rat.
Yes,
she calls him a Womp Rat, but here it makes sense, because there are actually Womp Rats on this planet. This makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
I didn't like it in the previous episode, but the reference here is perfect, because she's from the fucking planet where they fucking live. So that's okay. You can reference that a million times.
Do you know that there are not Womp Rats on the other planet where like that was referenced?
We don't know that for sure, but because that it was referenced in the original Star Wars movie.
Well, we know we know that they're on Tatooine. I just don't know if we don't know they're on whatever the other planet is. But we don't see the one reference, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the one thing we don't see on Tatooine this time, the Jawas, which we see on all the other planets.
Yes, but this is suspicious. We didn't see that
on Tatooine this time.
As we know, the Jawas are spreading out into the galaxy, seeping their insidious tendrils into galactic society, waiting for the Jawa Emperor to be reborn.
Right.
That's my conspiracy theory. The Jawas were behind it all.
Well, I have a little bit of, again, another little thing of trivia, but I might not come up more importantly until we get to the bar. But so the director said that this version of Mos Eisley is no longer thriving as it was before. And so to reflect this, the streets and the cantina are much emptier than they were in like A New Hope. And so part of that is like, okay, obviously there's no Jawas because there's no business. Like they're not here because no one's buying anything because there's no one on the planet anymore. They're
not here because they're off on Navarro and on whatever planet they found Baby Yoda on, but expanding their intergalactic trade network to eventually take over the galactic capitalism.
Well, I was going to say that's not either. Because it makes sense now, though, right? Because if they're not making any money, or not money, but like they're not doing any business with people anymore on this planet because there's just not really a lot of people anymore, then it makes sense that they would be on the other planets because they had to adapt. And they were like, oh shit, we got to go out and find other, losers to pawn off our shitty robots on, So makes sense.
In later episodes too, we will see that the underworld, we will get the implication, this may be explored in a future series. Yeah. The underworld on Tatooine is also, it was kind of a central area of it, or a central kind of hub for it. And at this point now that has fallen into disrepair.
Right.
But we do move to the bar. I also noted here, before we move on to that, I
was gonna say, wait, there's
one more.
I have one more thing, sorry, for this scene too. Where Amy Sedaris discovers the child on the ship, which she was like, whoa, wait, there's somebody else in here. And then the baby walks out. And then another favorite line that I have that she says is she goes, do you want some food? Like, she's like, I'm going to take care of you so that I get to charge Mando extra money when he comes back.
Teaching important life lessons to the children.
Oh, it was so funny.
Bring me something with bones in it.
Did anybody else get kind of a vibe, like a Sigourney Weaver in Aliens vibe?
Oh, from her hair.
From her hair, and then her having the kid.
Yeah. It was weird because she doesn't have eyebrows or something, right?
Yeah,
or they're very light.
They're very light, I think. They're very
It's a weird
thin.
design choice, costume design choice. I don't know why that is. Is it because maybe she was working on something and her eyebrows got singed off or something? That's the backstory there. I don't really know.
Well, so if we're jumping ahead to the part where she finds the child, this is where I'm kind of hung up a little bit. It's okay, we get it. That part of what's going on here is that they're trying to show that the Mandalorian is not, he kind of is trying to be a little paternal, but he doesn't know how yet. And so she's going to yell at him for leaving the baby in the car in the hot day. But the first thing he does when he gets off of this ship, when he lands, is he shoots at the droids because he doesn't trust the droids. And also by this point, leaving the child alone has proved that he gets up to kind of no good. So are you, bounty hunters are after you. You're going to leave this child unattended in this hangar with this person you're just meeting for the first time and her droids. I'm confused why he just leaves the child.
Yeah. Kyle's about to take the Mandalorian to paternity court.
Yeah.
Basically.
I get it. Your parents are dead, so you don't have a good role model, whatever. But you don't, even selfishly, it's what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
Bradley, can you get Kyle on divorce court?
Honestly,
as an arbiter on divorce court,
I could. No, but you're right. It's kind of weird that he thinks that if I just leave him here, he'll sleep the whole time. What? And somehow the baby opened up the door, so he didn't lock it.
He used the Force.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
He used the Force of plot contrivance.
Right,
which, as we know, is the force that governs all of the Star Wars franchise.
Right.
The magical force of this happened because the plot needed it to happen.
Exactly.
And you know what? It's fine because it makes the plot fun.
It made the plot happen.
Exactly.
The last thing before we
yeah.
jump into the cantina is we do interspersed in here of the shot of the heads on the spikes. I forgot this was on Tatooine, actually. For some reason, I thought this was on Navarro, so it surprised me.
You were like,
when it
whoa,
popped
whoa,
up in the episode. I was like, oh, this was on 1. Oh, yeah, there was a garrison on Tatooine. And 2, yikes.
Yeah. They were like, yeah, you guys are gone. So
Y'all are... That puts that scene in Return of the Jedi where they're celebrating in a bit of a new light, because it's kind of like the Coruscant scene where you find out in Aftermath that immediately after that shot in the film, basically like the stormtroopers showed up and opened fire on the crowd. It puts it in kind of like a... or watching the what's it called? The helmets being beaten on in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And then you remember, the Ewoks were like going to cook and eat the rebels. Mm-hmm. And like now the Imperials' bodies are gone and they have the helmets. So what happened to the bodies? Yeah. It makes you think. But that was, I wanted to bring up that shot.
Again, as a question from an outsider, part of that shot, if memory serves, they zoom in on one of the particular helmets that's like a scar across the top. It almost looked like. Was that a specific, like, was that a reference? It was like, this feels like a reference, but I don't know whose helmet that was supposed to be.
It was. I don't think it was. If it was, I didn't catch it. Bradley, do you have anything in the trivia?
No, I don't have anything about the helmet. So maybe it was just a close-up shot to be cool.
Yeah. No, that good.
I mean, we did decapitate the fascists, which, good. That's the correct thing to do. But yeah, I don't think it was a reference to anything.
So moving on, he goes to the most famous bar in all of Tatooine, because I guess it's the only bar in Tatooine.
The only bar.
Where he thinks he can find some work. And I noticed this. So the first thing I noticed was no music playing. Whereas when we were previously in this bar, obviously we had a cantina band playing. That's copyright. We can't use that. No, I'm just kidding.
Trust me, if I was even close to on tune enough for that to be copyrighted, I will pay for it.
No, you're fine. So yeah, there's no music playing. Fun little Easter egg, which, like, you remember when I said in the second episode, I noticed that the robot from the jailbreak episode was in the second episode trying to fight.
Yes.
Mando. In this one, we see Frog Lady in the cantina, and she's just having a drink. So that was a fun little reference there.
We will actually see. There's another character I had noted here that there was a shot of the bug, the ant thing, which is another call forward,
right,
to something that will happen later on.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny that they had all these things.
You'll have to remind me afterwards, because I don't actually remember what that reference is.
The bug?
Yeah.
I will remind you of the bug after the fact. Yeah. But yeah, I missed the Frog Lady. I didn't actually see the Frog Lady.
I didn't even notice her until this.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there she is. And then right after the Frog Lady, we get a very famous character shows up. A robot known by the name of R5D4, just randomly chilling in the bar.
R5D4, yes, and this is not the only time we will see R5D4 in this series. It's a recurring character, but yep, it's the same one. Now, I couldn't tell if the EV series droid, and I couldn't research if the EV series droid was the same one from Jabba's palace, but I did find it hilarious that in A New Hope, the guy was like, we hate droids and we don't allow them in, and now the bar is run by a droid.
Run by droids, yeah. I thought that was interesting, too, because I thought about it, and I was like, so what probably happened at some point in time is that the bar owner either was really terrible at doing his taxes, or, he lost a bet and he just lost the bar. And then the person who bought the bar from him or got it was like, no, it's more efficient if we just have droids be the bartenders. So that's what he was going for.
His worst fears came true.
Third possibility, the old bar owner fell in love with this droid, and now after our owner passed away, it now belongs to this droid.
That makes a lot more sense, actually. I'm going to go with your theory that they were in love. And he left it to him in his will. Yeah. I like that better.
Kyle's out here getting into the spirit, writing his fan theories and canonizing them.
Until someone provides me strong evidence that this is not the case, we'll have to believe it's true.
And you know what?
No one can prove to me that Senjor Rathvelis was not on Hosnian Prime when Starkiller Base destroyed it. So personally, I believe that he is still alive until someone at Disney explicitly confirms that he was on the planet. So we all have our things that we're like, I have chosen to believe this.
Right. Well, so I have two things. One about R5D4. So this is actually the appearance, or the first appearance of a character from a Star Wars film to appear in The Mandalorian. He's the very first of any Star Wars film to appear in The Mandalorian. So he gets that honor of being the kind of first callback. And then the only other thing I have with the bartender is we learn, if you were to watch the gallery show, which is the making of The Mandalorian, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Where you get like a little more background information on the making of the show. There is an uncredited voice of the bartender is Mark Hamill, who is Luke Skywalker. So,
of course it is. Mark Hamill voices fucking everything.
Exactly.
Everyone is voiced by Mark Hamill.
Even you.
Even me. I'm secretly Mark Hamill. He did like one of my tweets once. It was the proudest moment of my life. It was a happy birthday tweet to Laura Dern.
Oh, wow. I'm glad that he liked that, though.
It's the crowning moment of my existence.
Well, Mark Hamill droid actually tells Mando that the guild no longer operates on Tatooine. So I wrote down that's probably why that Tatooine is not busy anymore. Because like you said before, that Tatooine used to be like a hub for all the crime and like terrible people. And the Hutts, were controlling Tatooine basically. So I think that's why it's quiet, because there's just no business anymore. So you think about it and it's like, wait, did the crime actually help the city? And
yeah, if only somebody would maybe come in and, take over the underworld on Tatooine and maybe could restore it back to the point where it could bring comfort. But I can't think of anybody who would be able to do that.
I genuinely could not.
I know, God.
So we know that while Mando's asking the droid for work, somebody is listening in on this conversation and sitting in the same exact bar seat where Han Solo and Chewbacca were sitting when they were talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi after they had just killed Greedo in this fucking bar seat. Like,
not only is there one bar, there is only one booth in this one bar.
The only booth in the whole entire bar.
Entire planet.
It's a special booth.
It is a special booth. It's like the coffee table from Friends that's just constantly reserved for the main characters to come in wherever they want, and no one else gets to sit here. You have to be in the Star Wars movie to be able to use this booth.
Well, also, let's, for sake of argument, say that this character knew that, right? How long do you think he was sitting there just waiting for someone to come along and solve his problem? So I guess that's what we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. Let's talk about who he is first.
Yeah.
So his name is Toro Calican. I think that's how you say it. Who is played by Jake Cannavale. Sorry, all these names are so complicated. Who is best known for his role, I guess, it looks like Nurse Jackie was like one of his bigger roles. But he's also, fun fact, I was getting really into this because he has all of his information on IMDb. Because he's actually a very well-known, not him, but his family is full of people who have just been performers over the years. His dad has been in a ton of movies. I mean, I can't say them all because I didn't write them all down, but his father is also a performer. His grandfather is also a performer, and so he comes from this family of performers. But he's also a Taurus, and he was born in 1994. And I'm just kidding. And the only reason why I said that is
he was born in 95, actually.
Right? The only reason why I said that was because I thought he was cute. But
I was gonna say, I think we just learned what Bradley's type is.
Mm-hmm.
well, I'll tell you, I was really attracted to him until I read that he was 5'7". So
Wow.
Spoken like a true twink.
He's shorter than me, so unfortunately, he's dead to me.
And how tall are you for our viewership, Bradley, or our listenership?
I'm 5'8".
Thank you, Bradley.
So he's only 1
Single
inch
men take
shorter
it
than me.
out. Bradley is 5'8". I'm 6 foot even.
But you know, gays are so like that
out
though.
here.
Charles, I cannot wait until we meet because I'm also like just like maybe like half an inch above 6 foot, and I want to see like if we're like once we actually get to meet in person, how our heights compare.
Yes, Kyle and I have been friends for a little bit, but because of the plague, we have not actually been able to interact with each other in person.
In 3-dimensional space, yeah.
In 3-dimensional space.
But I also, to get back on topic, I also thought he was very cute.
Yeah.
I
definitely cute.
I did also note here that later on there is a note that, wow, Hot Boy is dumb, just like I like them. I have this specifically in my notes.
Well, we have lots more to talk about our attraction to this character as we go throughout.
Right.
Yes.
So our new character presents a bounty puck to Mando, and we get Mulan herself on the bounty puck. We won't talk about her now, but he brings up the name of the person that he needs to get, which is Fennec Shand. So that's the person they're thinking about going after. We'll talk about her more once she actually shows up later.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to bring up the point that we see. I don't know if you recognize that it was.
I knew her from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. initially, and then I found out she was the voice of Mulan, and now she's Fennec Shand in Star Wars. So she's completed the trifecta and ascended to becoming a goddess.
Absolutely, because we love a good queen who can go Star Wars, Marvel, Disney. That's all I need.
Let me just cash those Disney checks for the rest of my natural born life.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about her later, but we'll skip into the next scene because I don't think there's really much else in this because they, like I said, there was no music, there was nothing. So as many references as there were in this scene, there was just like, okay, well, let's just go back to the child.
Well, wait, can we talk about the conversation they have though?
Yeah.
Like, I just found it very interesting how. So like, what really made him change his tune? Like, so he's not in good graces with the guild, and because he's being hunted by bounty hunters. And what is it, do you think, that makes him actually like want to help this dude? Is it really just out of desperation for the money?
Like,
No, yeah,
you think so?
yeah. I think he just wants money.
Because like I think it like made it seem like he wanted to do it because he wanted to help the person get in the guild. But like, why would you want to help someone else get into the guild? Like, when A, you're not on good terms with the guild, and B, like, this isn't like a foundling. This is like,
right.
I don't know.
No,
Mando has this nasty habit of like not wanting to do something and then 5 seconds later deciding he absolutely wants to do it. Like, he's the hugest pushover you will ever meet in your life.
The way I saw it, and I agree with you, Kyle, I think actually it wasn't just for the money. Because yes, he does need that because he does need to like obviously pay for the repairs.
And that's why he came to the bar in the first place.
Right. Yeah. But I think there's a duality to it. I think he also thinks of it like this. He realized that all these bounty hunters are coming after him. This kid wants to get one of the worst bounty hunters in the group, which is Fennec Shand. Supposedly, she's a very very dangerous, bounty hunter, very good bounty hunter.
Name recognition level.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's thinking, well, if I take out this bounty hunter, that's one less person coming after me. So I think it could be both. I think he is doing it for money, but he could also be doing it for the sheer fact that if I take out this really strong bounty hunter, then maybe a few lower tier ones are all I'm going to have to deal with. I won't have to deal with the big ones,
Right.
So possibly that's what it was, but you never.
And if the kid dies trying to get this bounty, it's one less person who might be connected to the guild who'll know that he's here.
Kyle, I think you missed your calling. I think you probably should have been a bounty hunter instead of a teacher.
I did watch a lot of Dog the Bounty Hunter growing up.
That does that surprise me? I don't know.
I just found it very fun. It's because it's bad reality TV in one of its many forms.
All reality
Can't get
TV
enough of
is
Dog
bad.
and Beth.
All reality TV is
Agreed.
awful. Trash, garbage.
Just because,
Bradley, you work on
is
reality
bad.
TV.
Right. No, it's probably one of the lower tier.
Hey, if reality was good, then it would be better, but it's
Right.
not.
Hey, I'm
Exactly.
honestly right. I mean, that's what, honestly, people don't realize that bad reality television is good reality television. So,
Oh, yes. That's why we watch it.
How terrible the show is. If it's getting ratings, then it's great. Like if there's, little people, Dr. Pimple popping 19 Kids and Counting, that's the show people want to watch. So,
Yeah.
hey, if we can do it, I'm not going to get off topic, but I will say that I did work on a production where they asked me to find a family who had a lot of kids who also their profession was renovating houses. So I'm not going to go into like super detail on that, but think about those plots. That's two different shows like mixed together. That's all.
This works.
Right. They wanted hybrid TLC, basically.
I'm having flashbacks, Bradley, to a certain professor whose courses we took, who told us in detail how to get some of these reality television shots and sequences.
Yeah.
But we move. Sorry, go on.
No. I was gonna say but we can move on. Mando is being scolded. You can't leave a child by itself. That's the dumbest thing to do as a father / caretaker. Obviously, don't leave your child alone.
The AC was on. It's okay.
The windows were rolled down a little bit. He'll be fine. I did when the guy shows up and he says ma'am to Pelly. Right. I can almost imagine him tipping a fedora ma'am. And I wrote down in my notes, wow, he is so shitty. I hate him, but I'm also attracted to him. Yeah. And the fact that I hate him makes me more attracted to him.
Yes.
I was surprised that they didn't go all in with the references and that the swoop bikes weren't the Imperial swoop bikes.
I see what you mean. Yeah, they're just random.
Just random swoop bikes.
Well, are they from the prequels?
They might have been. I would have to.
I had it somewhere, and it was something along the lines of they were from the prequels or something.
But they weren't the known. Kyle, you wouldn't recognize them, would you?
No.
So that's our litmus test of
it's more I've seen speeder bikes in Star Wars. I don't think I'd be able to distinguish them, but I also can't distinguish cars in real life. So
right. Well, this is basically the same thing. Basically, what happens is in Attack of the Clones, which is the second movie, Anakin is on Tatooine, and he's riding this same exact type of speeder bike.
Oh my god, it was a reference.
Yeah.
It was a reference. The clothes were coming from inside the house.
Yes.
Oh my god.
In this case, the house is once again Tatooine.
Right.
Kyle, I'm envious of you watching these episodes and not knowing this. Having to know this.
I mean, you don't need to know that.
Listen, there's some questions I'm kind of curious about, but I'm what? I think I'd be better off if I didn't know the Star Wars knowledge and didn't have it weighing my brain down.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna move on.
I think a lot of people do that.
You do need all that space in your brain for the Magic the Gathering lore.
Right. And that's the thing is Magic the Gathering has their own magical wizards who go to different planets and stuff. And I always make comparisons with Star Wars and stuff. And I always use Tatooine and Hoth in my two references because those ones everyone will know them, right?
Right.
So everyone knows Tatooine. It's so
that's the main. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Right. So I don't need to learn that many more fun facts about Tatooine. People just the desert place where Luke is from. It's yep.
Right.
I would make a joke here that we'll just drop Nico Bolas into the middle of Tatooine, but they kind of do that later in the show.
They actually kind of do that. He takes over the desert world inspired by Egyptian mythology and stuff like that and takes over and remakes it in his image. So
I was talking about the crate dragon that shows up.
Oh, well, that too. I was going to say, okay, well, there you go.
They
who rescued who?
Really? What was going on? That was a secret Magic the Gathering crossover that no one realized they were doing.
I'm sure at least one. I mean, golly gee, the Magic
Kyle.
and Star Wars fandoms, they have no overlapping interests. All are well-adjusted humans to society.
They're definitely not the same genre,
Right.
really.
All right.
So the only other thing I had about the bikes was the whole scene where they're on the bikes. I thought was really just nice animation and just like good. Like I don't know. All I have is good.
I call them the Nat Geo shots. So I have in my notes a couple of times Nat Geo shots.
Yeah.
Because you can, Disney owns that catalog.
Right.
And when we found out, Nat Geo was going to be on Disney Plus, my brain went, oh, there's going to be some shots in The Mandalorian that are just going to be these epic vistas.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this was. I just have it as Nat Geo shot. It's a very pretty shot.
I agree. I just like this whole sequence of them riding on the bikes through the sand. I was just like, that just looks so cool. And then there's like, they kind of are like not racing with each other, but like they kind of are keeping up the same speed. It looks really nice. So that was just interesting. And then they come across another reference of fucking Dewback. Alien.
Actually, before they get to the Dewback, there is another.
There's another reference
sequence. Yes, you're skipping over the Tusken Raiders.
No, this does not happen.
No, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Actually, Charles.
Actually,
the Raiders don't show up until they start looking at the Dewback.
Yeah.
I thought the Tusken Raiders showed up first.
No,
wait.
And then they get to the Dewback.
Oh, I was confusing Bantha. Wait, I'm confusing Bantha.
You're right, Charles, I think, actually.
Of course I'm right.
Because the Dewback has to be closer to the end place.
No. So, okay, wait. I see where we went wrong. Okay, so we're confusing the Bantha with the Dewback. So
there's too many fucking references.
My
brain can't handle it.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I would like to apologize to the Star Wars fans that I'm on here. I don't know a Dewback from a Bantha.
Right.
I am Bantha.
Apparently, neither do we.
Clearly not. The Star Wars fans don't know the difference. Okay, let's reset. Okay, so they approach what they realize is a Bantha and a few Tusken Raiders in the distance, and they're looking at them through their little scope goggles or whatever. And then he tells Toro that tells them basically that the people of Tatooine think that they're a scourge, or I'm sorry, Toro says that the Tusken Raiders are a scourge on the planet, whereas Mando corrects him and says, no, they believe they are the natives because they were here first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so it's kind of that whole
these so-called locals.
For locals, right?
Yeah. Which I liked because it's like, oh, okay, so in contrast to the other Disney, being like, oh, we're gonna shoot our own horns a bit. Like that was a little bit of a step back, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, and then what I love this scene so much because it's so hilarious. So he's like, oh yeah, they really think that they're the locals. He's like, why don't you ask them yourself? And then they cut to them just standing next to him. It was so awkward. Like,
I love that they communicate, and this is like the first time we've seen them actually communicate, and they communicate with sign language.
Yeah,
they actually speak in sign language.
Do either of you know sign language?
Not really, not well. So I don't they're not using ASL as far as I'm aware.
Okay, that's why I figured they were.
They're using signing, but it's not like
right.
ASL.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I was like, wait, somebody could go back and be like, no, they're saying fuck you, Star Wars fans, you all suck. You know what I mean?
I mean, there are many people on Twitter who would tell you that is in fact what they are saying.
I'm sure, but as
far as I tell you that's in fact what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, like you said, they're not using ASL, but they are doing some form of hand communication.
Yeah.
So which I thought was weird, but it was cool.
This is the first actual, I believe, the first acknowledgement that a version of sign language exists in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That can actually be used to communicate.
Which is interesting because, Tusken Raiders obviously can't form the same syllables that normal humans or human-like aliens can because of the mouth details. Because, there are other aliens in the Star Wars universe that have certain physiological limitations that do not allow them to speak English, or
Right.
I'm sorry, basic. So
We gotta Star Wars up the words.
right. So it's interesting that they use signing, or there must be some kind of like thing there where local Tatooine people are able to communicate with them at some point at some moments with sign language. So they're not always just, the people that are raiding, everything and killing everybody. Like they do actually communicate with them in some instances.
Well, I hope that at some point in a future Star Wars series or maybe even episode, we can see some of that kind of interactions. Although oh wait, now I already forgot what I was going to say with that. Oh, okay, question. Because I wasn't 100% sure. So is their proper name the Tusken Sand Raiders, or what are they called?
They're either the Tusken Raiders or the Sand People. It's used pretty interchangeably.
Okay.
Right. So the Tusken Raiders is just what local people call them. So, for example, like Native American people are not going to refer to themselves as Indians.
Right.
So they actually,
or Native American. Okay. Well, I guess my part of my question, I think, is, so is Tusken describing like their like kind of their group, their ethnic background, or is that like a location, or is that not really...
I don't know what Tusken means. I just know that like Tusken Raider is equivalent to saying like those are Indian people, right? You don't call them Indian people because that's not their name.
Right.
They're not. They're the whatever their tribe is called is what they're called, right? So with Tusken Raiders, they would refer to themselves in their own language as their tribe. But then the actual terminology for the Tusken Raiders is just the Sand People, or like the native Tatooiners.
Gotcha.
Maybe a better historical example here might be the Romans, the relationship between the Romans and the non-Roman people, to where the term barbarian was what the Romans would use to describe any non-Roman. They were the barbarian people, but they did actually have names, the Goths, the Visigoths, these different groups, the Celts, but the Romans would refer to them as barbarians because that was just a catch-all, whereas they would refer to themselves by their own names. So it would be interesting to see, maybe in future episodes, them delve into the relationship between, so quote unquote, the people of Tatooine and the natives, because that's something that's come up in Star Wars a lot with regards to the Tusken Raiders, especially in Knights of the Old Republic. They touch on that a lot, and then some of the old legend stuff too delved into the relationship between the Tusken Raiders and the quote unquote civilized people of Tatooine, and played on that kind of frontier, the Native Americans and the settlers kind of vibe. It harkens back to those Westerns, which this is all just one giant Western reference.
Right.
Well, at what point does it stop being a reference and it's just like, we're doing this genre thing? Like, it's like, does it necessarily a reference, or it's like, okay, we're using our world building in this genre space? Like
around the point in A New Hope, the space cowboy shows up.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think it is, instead of just being a reference to Westerns, you're right. I think you're right. It's just the world building is just set in the space of a sci-fi.
Yeah.
Kind of, whatever. So I agree. I think it is just the show is a Western. It's a Western,
and also like
with sci-fi elements.
What counts as an Easter egg or reference, instead of just like, they have these in this world, they've previously established this, or they're going to use it, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think the only difference is that in this case specifically, right, it's just the same exact thing. So I think that is when it is a reference. But
reference. Right. And also when it's supposed to evoke, like the callback nostalgia is supposed to evoke a certain parallelism, like in that case, it's going to be a reference, which we'll see more of.
Right. But moving on, we'll go to the Sand People told Mando and them where they could find, or at least where they think that Fennec Shand is, and they find this dewback trap where they see a dewback and it's got a body attached to it, and it looks like that this person is either hurt or dead or something. We don't know, obviously, yet. but they're trying to suss it out. So they're like, we're just going to sit here for 12 hours until we figure it out.
Well, he runs down to it, and then they discover that it's the bounty hunter. Yeah. It's the bounty hunter from the ship, I believe, that Mando was fighting in the opening sequence.
Well, and wait, that guy blew up, though.
Yeah, that blew up.
Either that or it's a guy who looks a lot like him, because when I rewatched the episode, I thought it was the same guy.
Oh.
Well, we know it at least is a bounty hunter.
It is a bounty hunter. She shoots him, and they kind of dive behind the thing. They're like, well, we're going to stay here for the next 12 hours.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, too, because I was like, I don't think it's the same guy, but...
I don't think it's the same guy, because I remember I was going to make a question or comment where it's like, because, he does the whole hot and cold thing. I was like, oh, his ship got straight up blown up while they were in space far from Tatooine. How long is his body going to be warm from the explosion before his body gets cold in space? So.
Well, I mean, if he was incinerated, there is no body. So.
Right, exactly. So either way, the body's not going to be here.
Yeah, Charles. Space logic.
Mm-hmm.
There is
it shows
no
all about
logic
consistency,
in space.
Charles. Don't you know?
Oh, yeah, I don't know why I thought I would have to look up. I genuinely, this will bother me if I don't look up it.
Right.
All right, but so here's the thing, though. Because of the explosion, we technically did not see the body. So since we cannot see the dead body, we cannot confirm nor deny that they're actually dead and that this is or is not their body.
Okay. I have confirmed it.
Okay.
It turns out the guy has a name.
Okay. Ooh.
Riot Marr.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he was killed in the opening scene.
Okay, great. Loves it.
So it is a different guy.
So this different dead body is just an extra.
Yeah, this is just another.
You're right, though. They do look similar. Like, I can see why you said that. So we can kind of skip forward to, I keep saying the next scene, but even though this is technically,
12 hours later.
Right, just because it's like nighttime doesn't necessarily mean it's the next scene. But so Fennec, they're trying to charge at her with their plan of blowing up flash bombs to distract her scope, because as you've clearly seen before, she's a good shot. Mm-hmm. So it works at first until our new little twink unfortunately messes up one of his throws, and it doesn't go off correctly. And then she gets her shot in and she blows up Mando's speeder bike.
You truly cannot trust a twink to do anything right.
I mean, clearly not.
Clearly not.
Can I say, though, also, I really like how, like, the original plan is like, okay, we're going to alternate shifts until nighttime.
Right.
And I don't know if they cut over it or not, but it's like, he's like, okay, I'm finishing my shift. He's like, okay, we're going to go now. Like, Mandalorian never has to actually take a shift, at least as far as we saw. And so, like, we can blame it on, Toro's like not as good of a shot or doesn't know he's doing as much, but also like he just had to take like the 12-hour shift or whatever, and Mando was like napping the whole time, and I really like that.
Kyle, are you really defending this twink?
No,
Did you come onto the podcast just to be the twink Star Wars twink defense force?
I mean, okay, but here's the thing: that entire scene where they're staking them out, he is perched like with his ass in the air, like leaning forward, looking like watching her, and I'm like,
that's true.
I see something.
He's presenting himself.
I don't know if it's the sand dunes or different kind of hills and bumps I'm seeing, but I don't know if it's a reference, but I like it.
I don't know if it's a reference, but I like it.
It's definitely something.
Right.
It's definitely something we love to see in this universe.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I did note here with this sequence and then the fight sequence, we've talked a bit about darkness and how some of the scenes are lit, and this one I really liked with the moonlight, how they light it and how they light the fight sequence that follows. I really loved just the lighting of it in general with the desert moonlight. It gave me vibes of the climax of the Clone Wars movie.
I mean, like the flares, like not just from this through the scope lens, but like from like kind of like the side shot of seeing them approach them, watching the trajectory of the flares and stuff. Like you're saying, all the lighting stuff was so cool and so well done with all of this. Like even before the up close fighting and stuff like that.
Right. And then, like you said before, we get to see this up close fighting, which now I guess we can talk about the actor of Fennec Shan.
Okay, wait. One more thing. I know I keep interrupting and like going back, but like
going back to Twink Butts, but yeah.
Well, this time I'm not actually going back to that. I really like because they kind of seeded this earlier, where like when Mando goes to the dewback and he gets shot at, he's like, "Well, luckily from this distance, I can withstand my armor can withstand the blaster stuff." And then by the time he gets closer, because he's on the speeder bike and it explodes and he like takes a little bit more damage. Like, I like that they've set up these stakes, because we've seen Mando like, winning all these fights and stuff like that, and how he's, especially with this fancy new Beskar armor or whatever like that. Like, it's like, we want to make sure that we can still kind of believe all of that. But it's like, okay, they're kind of defining it a little bit, but keeping it muddy enough that it's like can fit the narrative purpose, like just how good this armor is. I kind of liked how they had established that there, especially when he's capable of getting injured or lost when it's someone else making a mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree, because you don't want him to be invincible, because then if he is, then your story doesn't work, because there are no stakes. So you're right. It's kind of that thing, like we have to believe that at some point Mando's armor isn't 100% effective, or it was only effective at that far distance. And he even says that. He goes, she shot me, but it held up at the distance because we were so far away. Any closer, it wouldn't have worked, which is great that he says that, because then that means, yes, I'm not invincible. I will die if I get too close. I will, you know what I mean? So,
or like, to pull an example out of my former twink ass, if somebody builds, say, a super weapon that specifically channels electricity through Beskar armor and fries the people inside only that armor while ignoring other troopers that may be wearing different armor. That's a very specific example of an instance where the Beskar might not be the best choice of invincible armor here.
I don't know. That sounds like a Womp Rat-sized plot hole, though.
Bit
convenient.
Yeah, but
I can't think of a spot where that might have happened elsewhere in the franchise.
I'm glad you can't, because that would be a mess.
I was going to say, we'll have to come back to that.
We'll have to come back. We'll have to explore some other areas of the franchise and see if maybe another TV show did that at one point.
That Kyle has not watched, but I have watched stuff with the marvelous Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah, see, thank you for the transition.
Beautiful transition.
So we love Ming-Na Wen. She is the voice of Mulan. She plays Melinda May in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We love her. We love everything she stands for. She's also the voice of Mulan in Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Where she gets to reprise her role as Mulan.
She also reprises her role in one episode of Princess Sophia, or whatever that show is.
Okay, well, I was going to go with actual content, not children's shows. I'm
sorry. I deemed to put children's show on your Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, as we know, Star Wars is for men in their late 30s and early 40s on Twitter and in the comments of Screen Rant articles.
Right.
This is who the Star Wars movies are made for.
I don't canonize Princess Sophia in the Disney princess universe. So as far as our fans are concerned, or the people who even listen to this podcast, Princess Sophia does not exist in the Disney Princess franchise. She is her own thing. She can go away. I don't care about her.
Wait until they have an episode where Leia comes and visits her. Then you'll see. Then you'll all see.
I don't know how that.
I don't know what's happening in this fight right now.
I don't even know if it's a fight. Okay. Anyway, we got Mulan.
Ming-Na Wen, yes. So Ming-Na Wen, she is great. I love this. There's so many parts about this scene with her where they capture her and she's talking to them. She has this line. It's not funny, but it's just like she goes through these different motions of her character where like she's trying the different aspects of trying to get out of being a prisoner. So she tries these different tactics all at once. My favorite is the beginning one, which is comedy. Where she goes, oh, look, the suns are coming up.
Yep.
And I love that. Like, she's trying to be like, wow, Mando's been gone a long time, like, kind of thing, which is hilarious because I just love that she references the two sons.
I think it's cool because like you even use like the moves she tries, right? Because like in the fight scene and in here, everything she's doing is so precise.
Yeah.
And so like, which makes sense because she's a sniper, right? It's like she doesn't waste a single action. Like in her fight scenes, all of her moves connect and it's all fluid. And when she's trying to like even get to get them psychologically, it's like she's trying things and she's using it with precision. I just found it very cool, and you could like it felt great.
One thing I really loved was a tiny detail, almost unnotable. It's almost kind of played as a joke, but when you stop to think about it, it starts to make sense. Where Mando tosses the cuffs at her and goes, "Cuff yourself," and where it looks like, oh, he's just kind of being a jerk about it, like put the cuffs on yourself, dig your own grave kind of thing. Right. But no, she's established by the scene to be so proficient a martial artist that if Mando gets close to cuff her, she'll attack him, incapacitate him, and then she's alone with Toro.
Yeah.
If Toro goes up to cuff her, she's going to break his neck.
Right.
So it like clearly he's aware of how dangerous she is, and we've been shown how dangerous she is. It makes sense for him to say, no, you put the cuffs on where I can watch you put them on. We're not getting anywhere near you.
And I want to note too, her costume, or her outfit, or whatever you want to call it. I really like the design, because I love the helmet the most out of everything, because it gives me flashes to the Zori character,
Zori Bliss
in Rise of Skywalker, with that little slit to see through the helmet.
Now Kyle, as we mentioned at the start of the show, has not actually seen Rise of Skywalker yet, so Kyle's living in kind of a lovely
bliss,
happy world where it's the Schrodinger's cat, where episode 9 can be either really good or really bad simultaneously. He's still living in that happy world.
Wow. Okay.
So, okay. This might be completely off base because I'm trying to remember. I've vague memory. Am I getting this confused with like this character from Power Rangers? Because that might be my brain. But when Leia in episode 6, when Leia comes to rescue Han and she's in like a bounty hunter outfit.
Yeah.
Does it look anything like this, or am I making that up?
No, I mean, I see what so the connection that I'm thinking you're getting from it is the slit in the eye. Because
again, I haven't seen that costume in a while. I don't even know what to Google to try to pull up an image of it.
If you type in Leia Boosh costume, BOO, like SCH. Yeah, something like that.
Lando's also in Return of the Jedi has the slit as well in the eyes. So it's a thing, and then they use the same helmet, the Lando helmet, in Solo, a Star Wars story. Right. So the implication is this is just a thing that Lando has on the Falcon. It's one of the disguises he's got.
Right.
I'm not sure. I think they're doing a comics run currently between A New Hope and Empire, between Empire and Jedi, that explains where the bounty hunter costume that Leia wears comes from. I know in the original, it was in Shadows of the Empire. She gets it as part of that, but I don't know if we know the origin of the costume in canon. I'd have to look it up.
All right.
Maybe. I was going to say, if you just look up Boosh,
I found the picture now.
Yeah. It's similar, I think.
They both have eye slits.
Right.
Is that a reference? Who's to say?
I mean, I don't know. But I think because of the coloring, it's kind of like that orange kind of color. And so that's kind of like also where I was getting it. I really like the coloring of this. It just defines her as like obviously like a main character, because she's like got a color that's more prominent than the background characters. But I don't know. I just really liked her costuming. I really like the character. I think she is perfect for this because, she's great. My only issue, I don't want to jump too far ahead unless you guys have anything else. But
I have a few things with this scene.
Okay, keep going.
We talked about the visor in the past, the scanner being able to just kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
I think this sort of establishes that it does search for heat signatures.
Gotcha.
And that's what he's looking at when he looks at these things. So it's kind of what the plot needs it to.
Yeah.
So, random memory from that Star Wars glossary encyclopedia thing we had when we were younger. I believe that the Tuscan the Sand People see an infrared.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I feel like I've read that somewhere, and I agree with you. I think you're right. I think they do.
I also think that you're right.
That's too random of a fact to not be true. So I'm gonna go.
I said it with such confidence. I'm like, oh, so like, I wonder.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'll look it up real quick, but
it doesn't need to be true. It's a thing about Star Wars on the internet. You can basically say whatever you want.
Well, no, because I'm going to get reamed by people who actually know. All right. Sorry, I just connected because you're talking about how the scanners and stuff work. I was like, oh.
I do want to note here as well, this was the moment that they dropped a reference. This was the moment that I started going, there are too many references in this episode. They reference Mos Espa. Mos Espa being the town from Phantom Menace. So he's landed in the town from A New Hope. She's trying to go to the town from Phantom Menace. The only things that are not mentioned in this episode are Anchorhead, which is another prominent location that showed up in Knights of the Old Republic, and it showed up at a few other things. So it's like the third big city that most people know on Tatooine. And also kind of surprised they never referenced Tashi Station at any point, considering how many references they jam in here.
They got the big ones, though. They're like, we're going from one big city to the other big city.
The only two towns on this planet, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Mos Eisley and Mos Espa.
Right. I guess maybe her contact was actually she just really wanted to watch some pod racing.
I mean, maybe.
Is that Mos Espa?
That is Mos Espa. That is the Bunta Eve Classic.
Groovy.
Right.
Watch, they're going to have a pod racing episode here in a couple of...
The reference happens there as she's waiting for... They're trying to figure out what's going on, right?
Right.
And I kind of rolled my eyes at that because I went... And the last other thing that I noted here, besides just how pretty the volume is, I have several notes on how pretty the volume is.
Yeah.
Here, and just how impressive it is. Your name will be legendary line from the trailer. Like, that stuck out to me.
They say legendary like 3 times, I think, in this whole episode. And I'm like, oof.
They really drive that point home.
I was like, okay, which
is funny. Because at this point, it's implied in the trailer that it's directed at the Mandalorian, who by this point in the show, we do not know what his name is.
Right.
I think, legendary is, ties into the theme of trust because it's about your reputation and how you're perceived by others and how you perceive yourself.
Right.
And also thematically, we get in this scene here where she's talking to Toro, like, as the suns are coming up, like we get some really cool shots of like their just shadow silhouettes, which especially on Tatooine, like I feel like there's a bunch of iconic shots with this, but I cannot say specifics because that's not my.
The Tatooine dual sunrise and dual sunset is one of the most iconic images. Luke standing there and watching the sunset is one of the, if not the iconic scene from the first Star Wars movie.
Yeah. So I thought about that, and then I don't know if this is a real image or not, but like, wait, wasn't there the thing with like Anakin from Phantom Menace where his shadow is Darth Vader? But like, I think it was just like a promo.
It was a poster. It was a promo poster. Right? I'll go ahead and spoil for you, Kyle, that the shot of the sun's setting on Tatooine is also used in The Rise of Skywalker at one point.
Oh, wow.
So it shows up a couple of... It's also at the end of... It's also at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So it's one of the big like images.
Motifs, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're, they're trying to strike this deal, which like you can notice that she actually when we do say legendary, she goes, she's kind of appealing to like, she kind of figures him out.
Yeah.
Because she's really smart, because she's like, you know what, this kid is dumb. I can trick him into doing this for me. So she's like, dude, you're going to be legendary.
You're going to be an influencer.
Right. You're going to be able to like
big follows.
Money. Yeah. They're like, everybody's going to know your name. Like, it's going to be so great. Like, she's really appealing to his like younger generation wants to be famous kind of vibes. Like, it's so hilarious how they do that.
2,000 followers, $20.
Right.
Follow this link.
But then we do get from him, like, he's kind of calculating in his brain, like, okay, wait, oh my God, I would be legendary. But then he's also not dumb, because he's like, yeah, that is a good idea. Thanks for that. And then he shoots her.
Yeah.
What do I need you for?
Right. He's actually so smart, because he's like, well, if I keep her alive, that's just one more liability.
Right. I think it's cool because like so far we just like kind of she's brings up with him. It's like, yeah, Mando's been calling the shots. Mando's been the one who's been cunning and coming up with these plans, but it's like he's learned a thing or two.
Yeah. So he's not the dumb little twink we thought. Like he knows what he's doing. I mean,
turns out
he's a different person now.
He's evil.
Right.
Turns out he's the bad twink.
Bad guy.
All twinks, of course, turn out to be evil eventually.
Right.
As we well know, and I'm not excluding present company from that.
Right. And I was really sad too, because, he walks away and Mando eventually does come back, right? And he discovers the dead body. And I was really sad about that, because as far as we know, she is dead, and he even like, kicks the body or something. And he's
that
like,
shocked me.
Yeah.
When I saw it initially, it was like,
I did too. Yeah.
It was like IG-11. I was like, you introduced this prominent character.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Not IG. In the first episode.
Oh, yeah.
When they introduced the Taika Waititi droid.
Yeah.
And then they shoot him right at the end of the episode, and I went, that's it?
That's it. Same here. This is the same thought process I had too, because I was like, whoa, you got this super like
high profile
heavy hitter of a actor, and they're only playing one role. Like for one
they couldn't afford her for more than one episode.
Well, clearly. So
they're like, you know what? We'll shoot her through the middle. There's no way people can come back from that, right? Darth Maul getting cut in the middle, can't come back from that. Like,
they were like, where can we shoot her where it's impossible to come?
There is one reason only that people stay dead in the Star Wars universe, and that's when you can't get any merchandise from them anymore.
I mean, it's kind of true. I mean, but again, I was so upset, because I was like, why did you cast her if you were only going to give her one episode? She was such a cool idea of a character, like this really impressive female bounty hunter, which, like I said in the previous episode, Charles, the reason why I didn't like the character of Cara Dune is because she was not a bounty hunter. She was a rebel, shock trooper, instead of being an actual, like, not necessarily a good person. Like, it's just this kind of like, just like Mando, where like they're kind of a questionable, kind of character. So I would have liked, honestly, this Fennec Shand character would have been my idea for what Cara Dune would have been. Because I wanted this female bounty hunter character, which we haven't really seen in the series as a major character. So especially the fact that you got, Ming-Na Wen to play her, I was like, this is the opportunity. Like,
clearly she will do a long-term TV show. She was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know how many seasons.
Yeah, she
pay her money, she will do it.
Right. Just like a bounty hunter.
She knows when the role is good enough to stay for a long time. So she will do it. I mean, so I was really sad, because I was like, she's never coming back, like, as at this point, and so
in that moment it's like, oh wow, so there must really be setting up this Toro guy to like be a big villain, because like if they're using him to kill off this person, he's like, this is like, you can tell it's this is his origin story, right? We're on Tatooine, we're seeing the sun, the shadows going, and like a kid that Mando is kind of mentoring and then kind of going astray. It's like, okay, I can see what you're setting up here. At least I thought.
As we go into the next scene, it's actually this next scene is really, really quick. Surprisingly, I thought it was gonna drag on a little bit, but I realized as I was rewatching this, I was like, oh, there's only 7 minutes left in the episode by this point, and 3 of those minutes are the credits. So, you know what I mean? Like, which are the art credits or whatever. So I was shocked because I was like, you're right. I thought they were setting him up now because I was like, oh, he's going to be this big bad, whatever, who's going to maybe be like a nuisance later on in the show. And then
it is kind of like, I watched this episode again. I actually watched it. My day job gives me 30 minutes for lunch.
Right.
I watched most of this episode on my 30-minute lunch break while I was eating my sandwich. I think I had about 10 minutes after that I had to finish up on my break. California law requires them to give us breaks. But it was a short episode, and if you watch, he's like 5 minutes of it, 7 minutes of the runtime is just the credits, which are, beautiful.
Well, and you know what? I think the reason why that is we can get into it in a second. But if you have anything else for the rest of the episode, because we can go into the directed by it in a second.
We didn't get to what actually happens here at the end, though.
Oh. Yeah, we need to get through the last scene.
What happened? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Sorry, I didn't even
Mando's cape swoops dramatically at one point because it is a Star Wars property, so there is a cape, and the cape swoops.
So he takes the dewback back to the hangar.
Right. Confronts Toro.
The speeder bike's out front, so he knows that Toro's there, right?
Toro has taken Amy Sedaris and Baby Yoda captive, which I thought was kind of silly too, because like, I don't know, he doesn't really know the connection between Amy Sedaris and him, so.
But he probably doesn't also want to just let her, hands free or whatever.
That's
the droids are hiding in the office or whatever. Like
he's also just kind of a giant asshole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just seems like the kind of person who, if you give him the opportunity to lord some power over someone, he's going to take that opportunity. It's a really unlikable kind of character, to where he clearly wants to be respected and feared, but he's so pathetic and stupid that he's almost overcompensating when he gets in a position where he
had this one victory where he felt like he outsmarted this world-class bounty hunter, and now he's so cocksure that he's just like, he starts villain monologuing almost, when it's like, this is
take the thing and go.
You're not going to get to last as a villain if you keep doing this.
Right. And what's funny about that is he doesn't learn, or he doesn't remember the lesson from capturing Fennec, which was, let's use the flashbangs to distract her or whatever, to block her vision. And then Mando uses the flashbang to blind him so that he can get everything back to normal, like save Amy and then save the child.
I do love that that Amy takes the opportunity to needle him. In this tense, dramatic moment, she just has to stop and be like, maybe you're not as stupid as you look.
Right.
And I'm like, of course you're going to take like an extra 2 seconds just to needle him.
Risk getting discovered to needle. Like, but honestly, she can do it.
She can do it. So he gets shot and he dies, and she gets his money, and of course, everybody loves Baby Yoda. They talk about how great Baby Yoda is.
So to clarify, so like the payment he uses for her is like, because he originally was like, I got like 50 Imperial credits, and he paid her with a different type of currency, or like just
he paid her with the credits. Metal. I think he paid her with the credits he took off the guy's body.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure he like pulled out more that he was holding off on her. Like I didn't understand what's happening there.
No, I think he just picked up the thing and then tossed it at her and was like, here, you keep the money.
Right.
It's the payment for the repairs of the ship. They reference Beggar's Canyon, which is another fucking reference to a place we've heard of in the Star Wars franchise. I love me some deep cuts, but God, they've listed every place on Tatooine.
Every single place on Tatooine, yeah. They I mean, I guess they had to, but I mean, they didn't have to, but like, it was kind of like, we're going to do it if we can, And I mean, I think is that the last reference? There's no more references, right?
There is.
Other than the final.
Other than the final shot. No, that's the last reference. The ship takes off, and the ship is off again. We've ended the episode on the classic. Adventure. The ship is, well, but not quite, because the ship flies off, but that's not actually the last sequence of the episode.
Right.
Oh, you're right.
So one more little bit.
So this is a part that's very contentious, because I think a lot of people had different theories about this scene, because one thing, well, first of all, we see a pair of mysterious boots coming up on Fennec's dead body, right?
Now I want to ask, and this is my question of this scene.
Yeah.
Knowing, obviously, we pretend that we don't know things that are coming up on the show, but obviously all three of us know who this turns out to be. So I want to jump back to when you first saw this episode. Who did you think, or who did you want it to be? I'll go first, since I have mine written down here while you two are thinking. I thought it was based on the boots, because they're the same boots that he uses. I thought it was Boba Fett.
You did.
I didn't want it to be Boba Fett.
Right.
For reasons we will get into in later episodes, I didn't want him to come back. I wanted it to be Bosk.
Interesting.
It wouldn't have made sense, because the Trandoshans don't wear the boots.
They don't wear shoes, yeah.
But it would have been interesting for that to be who it was that found her, because we don't see a whole lot from him. Mm-hmm. He's one of my favorite designs for characters.
Gotcha.
I just wanted it to be him. I knew it wasn't him, but I wanted it to be him.
Okay. Kyle, who did you think it was?
So here was my reaction. Initially, watching that, we were introduced to Fennec, who is this amazing bounty hunter assassin person, right? Who could easily be a recurring villain throughout the first season. And she gets killed, as far as we are aware, by this other one who looks like they could have been being set up to be the next big bounty hunter person, antagonist to Mando, right? But he dies. So my thought was that, this is going to be a bigger, badder bounty hunter that's going to be on Mando's tail. Because they're on the tail, they're going to go after Fennec. They're going to use this as a clue and figure out that Mando was here and try to follow after Mando. So that was where I thought this was going.
Did you have any idea of who a character that it might be, or did you just think from
I thought
a
it was gonna be
storytelling standpoint?
I thought it was going to be a new character, or at least a character new to me, because
gotcha.
As far as I was aware, the most famous bounty hunter that I knew had been on this planet but died there in a pit of Sarlacc. Or whatever, Sarlacc pit.
Well, that's the thing. People were like, well, it can't be Boba Fett because he died in the Sarlacc pit. But then if you read the comic books, you know that Boba Fett crawled out of the Sarlacc pit and in Legends or blah, blah, blah. I don't even know. This is bullshit.
He did get out. Yeah. He did get out in Legends by methods. It's long and complicated, and frankly, it's very stupid.
Did he escape in Lego Star Wars? Because that's the real. that's how we know if it's true.
According to the definitive canon version, which is Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, he does in fact perish in the Sarlacc pit. Now, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is coming out this spring. So it could overwrite that with new Disney canon. Gosh. We don't know. We won't know until that game comes out. And also, none of you will see me for about 2 weeks when that game comes out.
Right.
These spoiled new generations with the retconning their Lego Star Wars. Yes. Like, why can't we have one thing?
In my day, you played the pod race from the original Lego Star Wars game, and you perfected that fucking thing, and you fought through it, and you cried your little 9-year-old eyes out trying to beat this stupidly hard level, and you liked it. And you said thank you, and you came back for more. These entitled new generation of fans with their remaking the games to be fun and accessible. No, if it's not as hard and terrible and badly designed as when I was a kid, it's not worth it.
Charles, I was with you for kind of like the beginning and the end of that, but the middle there sounded like it got kind of personal and
I was like, you're losing
specific.
me, Charles.
Are you okay?
I am not okay, but that is not a subject for this podcast.
All right.
I have
back on
played a
track.
lot of old Star Wars games. Let's put it that way. I have seen some things.
Okay, well, back on track. My theory about who the person was that came up on Shenek's body actually has to do a lot with who the director of the episode was. So we get the directed by after that scene, which is directed and written by Dave Filoni. So I knew that in my brain, I was thinking, okay, Dave Filoni wrote this and Dave Filoni directed this. Dave Filoni is not going to put this scene in here and not pick somebody from the Clone Wars. So my thought process.
Could you just like clue me? Who is Dave Filoni?
Sorry,
Dave Filoni, quite famously, is he did the Clone Wars with George Lucas, so he was kind of the creative director, oversaw the Clone Wars under Lucas. He's widely considered to be Lucas's successor.
Gotcha.
Star Wars franchise. He studied directly under Lucas and worked with him for years doing the Clone Wars. He also did Rebels after the fact. He's done episodes of The Mandalorian. He worked really closely with Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian. He's kind of the arbiter of like the Force and a lot of other mystical things. He will weigh in on different projects. So he's kind of one of the guys at Lucasfilm. He's one of the major creative voices, and he's considered basically to be Lucas's successor in terms of some of this lore here. So if his stamp is on something, it's a pretty big deal.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why there are so many references in this episode is because of him. He is a big fan of Lucas and all of his stuff. So he wanted to kind of pay homage to him in his first, written episode that he did. And this is actually the first episode of the show not written by Jon Favreau, who is the showrunner. So this is a big deal that this episode is the way it is. But the reason why I said that Dave Filoni writing and directing this influenced my decision is because there's only one other character in all of Star Wars, Clone Wars, Rebels, anything that has these kind of Western boot spurs that we know of, which is...
I think I know what you're going to say.
Which is the character that is featured, a bounty hunter that is featured in the Clone Wars TV show for a couple arcs, who is Cad Bane. And
we never do find out what happened to him.
Right. And so I thought that this character had to be the character they were setting up, because I thought they're going to do this first season is going to be like one arc. But this scene right here was going to set up the fact that there's going to be a season 2 villain later on who's the actual villain, right? So I think that's what they were my brain, I was thinking, my producer brain, I was thinking like, okay, there's a season 1 villain, but that's not really the real villain. The real villain is coming much later. That's a bigger, badder villain who is just supposed to be Mando's equal, right? Like that's how they always do it. The hero always has to have like an anti-hero, right? So I was going to say that like, we have to find a bounty hunter or a Mandalorian character that is just the evil version of Mando. There's always an evil version of the hero. So there's Venom for Spider-Man. There's, whatever, right? So I thought it would be Cad Bane because he's a very good bounty hunter, but he's also considered one of the major villains of the Clone Wars TV show. And I thought, well, if Dave Filoni is writing and directing this episode, why would he not hint at Cad Bane showing up later on The Mandalorian? Because it's his, he's basically helping write the show. So it's like, fucking put one of my characters on the show that I created.
Not yet.
No, not yet. But I thought that would have been such a better option than Boba Fett. And the reason why is because I feel like putting Boba Fett on the show would have been a cheap shot. Because we wouldn't have had time to let Mando grow as a character and, be the Mandalorian. If you do another Mandalorian.
That was part of the concern I had with the theory is people thought that they were going to reveal that it was Boba Fett at the end of the first season. And part of my concern with bringing in established characters I was like, I want these new characters to be able to kind of have the chance to grow and have the chance to be on their own as characters before you start bringing the established characters in. And again, we won't get to it in this episode,
Right.
Yeah,
but when we get around to season 2,
right, we'll never find out who it is this season, which is weird.
Although we will, this is not the last that we will see of Fennec Shand before we see Mando season 2, or we get to covering Mando season 2, because she is actually going to appear in the Bad Batch. So Bradley, you and I will be seeing Fennec Shand again very, very soon.
I thought you were getting at that, like, she shows up in the background of season 1, and I just didn't realize it. I was like,
no.
I missed something.
No, she's going to be in the new show.
She's going to be in the new show.
That makes a lot more sense. I was like,
right.
Between this and okay, sorry.
Right. Well, and actually, so timeline-wise, this is very interesting because assuming what we haven't seen season 2 of The Mandalorian, like, so assuming that we have only seen up to this point in The Mandalorian, and by the time we start the Bad Batch, we had finished season 1 of The Mandalorian. So we've only seen that in the timeline, right?
Yeah.
Fennec Shand will show up again in the Bad Batch, and we're going to go, oh, we get to know this character more that we didn't get to know in this because she, quote, died in this season. So now we're going to get more of her backstory or some kind of like extra information on her, which is really cool because, you know, like I said, I was really sad to see her, quote, die.
Yeah.
And so now we get to get more of her in this other show, which is technically happening
before this. It's a prequel.
Yeah.
I will probably do one of my giant rewatches. At some point in the future, again, I will pick a several month span, and it'll be interesting to see with all this new stuff that's coming out when you arrange it in chronological order,
right? How
it sort of works out. But did you guys have anything else for this episode? Overall thoughts that hadn't been covered in the breakdown?
So I had one, which was that, like, part of me originally watching the episode hoped that, like, because obviously a big part, like, as soon as the opening credits or rather the title screen goes, like, and he lands in the hangar, there's a thing where he shoots at the droids where he's like, you know, further establishing he doesn't trust the droids, but then after this he trusts all these people that should not be trusted. Like, part of me was hoping that by the end he would, like, let one of the droids do something for his ship here, but that just didn't happen. And so that, I mean, obviously that character growth or lack thereof might be explored later on, but I was just kind of surprised that it didn't play a role here.
So I think we do get this. I mean, it'll probably touch on this later on, but I think what they do with Mando's character with the reference to any kind of droid is early on in the show, you know, we know that he doesn't trust droids for a particular reason. We don't know why, but we know that he doesn't trust them. And then as the show progresses, we get flashbacks of this traumatic moment in his childhood, right?
Didn't we already, by this episode, though, get some of those flashbacks?
We have seen the flashbacks.
We have seen the beginnings of the flashbacks. We don't get like the whole story yet, but we do get we have seen most of it.
Yeah, the parents, the boom, the scary droid face.
So we know that his parents died at the hands of droids. So that does play into his distrust of the robot species. But what you're paralleling, which is really interesting, is that he doesn't trust robots, but he does trust these maybe like seedier characters more willingly than he would a robot, which can only be programmed to just feel a certain way or act a certain way. So really his mistrust in droids is actually unfounded because, you know, the droids that killed his parents, right, were programmed to kill people. There's not like, you know, the little R5D4 that's working at the bar now is not going to hurt you, or is not going to do anything bad, or, you know, whatever. They don't really have, their AI is just kind of like silly sometimes. Like they kind of have some kind of personality, but it's just to kind of make it more bearable to deal with them.
In fairness, I do trust my iPhone more than I trust most Twinks.
Right. I agree. Well, that's all we have for this episode. Kyle, would you like to plug anything?
So nothing in particular. I stream 5 days a week on Twitch. My handle is at Kylectron, KYLECTRON. But
it is undergoing a branding, I believe.
Yes, I am undergoing
mention.
I am planning on changing that. I haven't solidified the new name. This will be like, I want to change it back to my original name, but it's not available. So Charles will keep you all posted.
We will make sure the episode description.
Yeah, in the description here, if it changes before
where you can find Kyle. For now, it would be at
Kylectron on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And
you will find.
I was gonna say, just for me, what are you playing on Twitch? I don't know how that all works. So
great question. So I usually stream. Well, kind of variety, focusing on making sure the content is trying to be accessible for people who have not played the games before and stuff like that. But my main games are Pokemon in all of its forms, Dead by Daylight, Magic the Gathering, other strategy stuff.
Very good mix.
Silly, queer nonsense.
Gotcha.
If you drop by Kyle's stream, chances are good, unless I am off recording one of these episodes, you will probably find me in that Twitch chat moderating for him.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So check him out.
Great job.
It's a pretty fun time, pretty chill. We have fun over there. Go check him out. Harass him about all the Star Wars things he got wrong. Don't actually do that. I will ban you.
No, actually do that. I will stop. I will remove Charles's mod powers if he tries to ban you for harassing me for my lack of Star Wars knowledge. I think, in fact, I think people who don't know Star Wars should be rewarded. But that's neither here nor there.
I think they are rewarded with a good life.
That's
free
true.
of pain and suffering.
Listen, I'm full of the blissful ignorance that comes from knowing that I will never see Rise of Skywalker and being very okay with that.
One more thing before we go, I want to make sure we plug. We are on Twitter as of this recording, at Goldsquadrongays. You can follow us to see when new episodes go live. And we also have Instagram, which I believe, Bradley, is just Goldsquadrongays.
Yep, that's it.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And other than that, we are finally through all of the plugs we need to get through. We will be back next week we're coming up on the end, the final 3 episodes, and then a little bit of filler, and then we're getting close to the Bad Batch. It's exciting.
We grow up so fast.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to disparage Star Wars fans. Don't actually be mad at me.
That's okay. I'll be mad at you for them.
Okay, please do. Okay. Thank you so much for having me on again. The burgeoning daddy cruised the twink at the bar, and they're about to take a little detour sitting in the sand because, like, oh, I guess we'll have to sit here for 12 hours and see what goes on.